This is in Belot, Kansas, and this is the story of the Little Red Schoolhouse. And the history of this rural one-room schoolhouse began in 1874. Local citizens built the one-room Honey Creek School, originally painted white, located 2 miles east and 3 miles south of Glen Elder. The building served to educate local children until 1942, when the school was tragically burned to the ground. Within a month, thanks to the pioneering spirit of the students, there were once again attending classes in a newly constructed Honey Creek School. However, due to depopulation in the Great Plains, Honey Creek and most other one-room schoolhouses were no longer operating in Kansas by 1960. And so here is some information on it. But that is a replica of the Honey Creek School of 1874. And this is the bell, an actual school bell, old school bell, that was used to signal for the students to come to class, and also to signal about prairie fires, if there was prairie fires in there. And you can see the bell up there, and this is a larger one. But all school bells had more than one purpose. The bell in those times was essential not only to call children to school, but also if someone was hurt or if a prairie fire was close. And the bell was rung usually in the morning around 8:30 in the morning to give warning to the pupils that they had half an hour to get to school. And then over here on the other side of this is some markers that tell about the guidelines for teachers in 1872. And one of the guidelines that they had, after 10 hours of school, the teachers may spend the remaining time reading the Bible or other good books. And if a woman teacher, if they were to marry or engage in unseemly conduct, they would be dismissed. And any teacher who smokes or uses liquor in any form, frequents pool, public halls, or gets shaved in a barber shop will give good reason to suspect his worth, intention, and honesty. And then after 5 years of good teaching, you would get a 25-cent raise. And this tells about the timeline of early education in Kansas. And I just want to mention about the Indian Territory. In 1830, 1841, the mission schools established for manual training for Native American children: the Shawnee Baptist Mission, Shawnee Methodist Mission, and St. Mary's Mission. 1844, Potawatomi Baptist Mission established classes for missionary children and settlers. And these early Indian missions that were started by Isaac McCoy, Johnson Likens, and also John Tecumseh Jones, who was an Ottawa native, an Ottawa tribal member, and he founded Ottawa, Kansas, and Ottawa University. And they would start these schools. These mission schools were established as a result of the relocation of the tribes from the east into Indian Territory. Isaac McCoy proposed the idea of an Indian Canaan, which would include the present areas of Kansas, Nebraska, and Oklahoma. And it was the Medicine Lodge treaties that started trying to move the tribes from Nebraska and Kansas into Oklahoma. And that was later on in 1868, I believe. And that's what caused a lot of uprising in this area among the tribes. And so when not only the Kansas-Nebraska Act, and then later on the Homesteaders Act, caused an uprising of the tribes in this area. This was the original hunting area and living grounds of the Pawnee, the Cheyenne, the Arapaho, and some of the Lakota, and the Kiowa and Comanche. And also the Osage are known to come up here, in the Kaw. And so here's a little information about the one-room school building location and design. There were usually two schools in a township. This was the result of the Homestead Act, which had originally set aside Section 16 and Section 36 for schools. And then the one-room school, one of the most wonderful institutions that has been part of the life of Kansas, is the rural school. Early Kansas found many families were living distances from city schools. Even small towns were so spaced that rural schools were the necessary answer to educating the many children who were growing up in the farming areas. And so this is the schools, the history of the one-room schools that followed the early settlement and pioneer days of the Great Plains. And the schools followed on the heels of the settlement and also of the Great Plains Indian Wars that were occurring. So this is Belmont. Just southeast of here is where the Bell family and some of the other families were massacred earlier. Some of their children were taken captive, and I'll read about that.